Isn't my understanding correct that the people that dump the woody waste, that's costing the township money? People that come and bring cardboard, if it's just cardboard, that makes money for the township? It's getting...
Not an offset.
Not an offset, really.
Not even close, real seriously.
What makes money for the township for cardboard is the 450 super value stores that we get credit for because of the distribution center. That's what makes money for the township.
They did that back with a load of cardboard.
Yeah, our cardboard recycling is a tiny, not even a round off error on the grant monies we get. It is 95% super value, 5% everything else in the township.
And as we stated before, what happens with the woody waste side is when people bring illegal stuff in, the road crew's got to stand out there. You got 2, 3, 4 guys out there separating us because Martin mulch won't grind it up. And then we still have to dispose of it. So, you know, it's a real big cost factor.
And we also have an obligation. Part of this whole change in recycling is having the appropriate material in the recycling stream. And so right now, we did talk to goods, they're willing to keep picking the container up even though they know that 30% of it is not correct, but that can change. And so the better we can control what gets dumped into that container, the better final product we're going to have with goods on board. And by having it behind a gate, and then we know it's residents, it's just, we're not going to have as much illegal dumping going on. Yes, sir. Your name, please?
John O'Neill. So I think the thing is, and I was actually at the business summit meeting there, which was very good, so thank you very much. But I think one of the things is you guys are bringing up tonight about deterring businesses from using the waste dump or anything else. I think the thing is, I think, or Tony, you're going to give the summary, I guess, of the next meeting then of the...
Yeah, the supervisor had that report.
Well, one of the things that came up a lot in that was actually how businesses are deterred from coming into East Cocalico for multiple reasons. I guess we'll get into that later. I think every time you guys close the door on something else that a business can actually do, getting a card for a business would be no big deal. Have that business coded to that card. I don't think that's a problem, but I think if you guys keep cutting the businesses off and not letting them do things that even recycling in the township, and there was a lot of other things brought up, I think you guys are going to just keep pushing people away from coming into that 272 corridor because I just think it's another luxury that you can have as a business to drop off that. And you're right, most of the businesses have landscaping done by a landscaper, but I mean cardboard disposal, plastics and everything else, whatever you guys are going to do for your disposal and recycling in the future, I think it should be open for business.
What I was proposing was the business would still be able to be part of it.
Correct, I know, but I heard there's other things that they don't want business to do. I just, from that forum, it was very apparent that, I don't think we should be really pushing businesses away from opportunities in the actual community.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
Where the cardboard container goes in the house, the gate. And businesses were saying what now at this point?
They get a card
They can get a card.
for cardboard. Yeah.
Okay. I will reach out, the next step to let you know is I will reach out to the contractor to get a formal proposal for installing the gate, apply it to the budget. I will try and see if we can advance the work so that it starts in December, and we will have a newsletter article to go along with it, and we're also going to start posting signs about 90 days before we go live, so that it would already be October, to post signs that we will be setting up a card system. So at our next meeting, I'll have a little bit more of a game plan to go forward with.
New business, request from Adamstown for a mutual aid emergency management coordinator.
This has now changed a little bit. There's been a couple emails that have gone around between the managers. And so actually I'm not necessarily ready to discuss this in great detail, but what, in a nutshell, Adamstown Borough is concerned that they lost their assistant emergency management coordinator, and they're just worried about coverage, and they're talking to their municipality to see that if they can kind of go in with one another to kind of help each other out in terms of emergency crisis, which is not an issue on the East Cocalico side. And then Denver, just the other day threw out an email that they have not been able to fill their emergency coordinator position for a couple of years now, and are very interested in talking about a more regional approach. So that's kind of taking a new twist at this point versus us just kind of sharing coordinators with one another. So I'll get back to you about it. It seems like everybody's favorable, at least having discussions. We're going to have some discussions about that and see how we can work with one another.
Okay, thank you, Scott. NFWF grant for regional PRP discussion.
Yes, Mr. Chair, this is a NIFWIF grant, and this is for the next 5-year pollution reduction plan cycle, not for the current one that is currently under review with DEP. This is a grant that would be prepared by our 2 associates. It would cost us nothing at this point to prepare in the program. We're not paying them to write the grant. And should the grant get awarded, they would work with the Cocalico watershed municipalities to explore the option of doing one pollution reduction plan instead of all 5 of us doing individual plans. So it's got the ability to save us some money, and it's just basically gets a discussion going at this point. We can at any time back out if we're not comfortable with what's being proposed. There's no problem to back out, so it's my recommendation for us just to participate, and I do need a motion to kind of go along with that we would participate in this grant application.
I will make that motion.
I'll second that.
Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you. Managers report.
There's one more under new business, Mr. Chair.
Oh, Route 272.
This is a request that comes out of both the business leader discussion, but this is actually something that started before that, which is kind of reevaluating the requirements that are being imposed along the Route 272 corridor within the 272 right-of-way. Primarily, it's the curb sidewalk, which then drives the drainage, which then makes it a much more difficult PennDOT HOP permit. There was a meeting the other week where myself, Supervisor Brasco, and the chairman of the planning commission, our engineer, and our zoning officer all met together. And we were just looking at this, talking about in general with things. And if you recall at the last couple of meetings, I suggested that there would be a joint planning commission meeting and supervisor meeting at least once a year to kind of look at land development trends and stuff that we need to possibly make some changes and tweaks in our ordinance. So that's one thing I'd like to throw on our radar screen, and it seemed like Sid from the planning commission was online with doing that too. I like that idea. But the other thing is to actually give the planning commission a homework assignment so they have a standing item. And what I would like to give them a standing item homework assignment would be to look at the 272 corridor and look at what can occur going forward, what has already occurred, and how can we meet one of the goals, which one of the planning commission goals is pedestrian mobility up and down the corridor, but maybe do that in a more cost-effective manner, taking into account the requirements that get imposed on those property owners when PennDOT is involved. And looking at how we treat some of our other corridors, like while we've struggled with development along 272 corridor, our Denver Road corridor is booming. And what's the difference? Well, there's no PennDOT. We don't have necessarily sidewalk everywhere. We have allowed some flexibility with that. And in particular, we've given flexibility with curbing, which is the biggest driver. And that's what drives the cost with the PennDOT work, is the curbing then creates the need for inlets in the PennDOT right-of-way. When we go to inlets in the PennDOT right-of-way, it becomes a much more expensive project.
We're responsible for that once.
And we were responsible on top of it because PennDOT is trying to eliminate curb and inlets as much as possible in every single highway, actually permit. So my request to the board is just to give permission for the planning commission that this as a standing item on their agenda and just start looking and make suggestions back to the board of supervisors.
Sounds good to me.
Because I don't need,
Absolutely.
on the emotion of this,
No.
this is gonna be just a standing item, and
Mhm.
I just wanna know that I'm okay with asking the planning commission to add that to their agenda.
Okay. We'll move on to manager report now.
This was Chair, I'll try and be quick, because right now it's probably Eagles are at halftime, and I'd like to get to this There has been questions about Heatherwoods, Lexon, and Bergstone's lawyers have been in actually a lot of discussions over the last 2 weeks. They have developed a cost-sharing approach to resolve the costs associated with Firethorn. I'm anticipating the next couple of weeks we will get resolution on that, and then we will finally be able to start formally calling the bond and getting it worked out. There was no recreation board meeting last month, so there's nothing to report on recreation. The next meeting is actually next Tuesday. There was a lot of key meetings that occurred over the last 2 weeks. There was, as I'm looking at just kind of summarizing a couple of them, there was a couple key meetings with UGI. One, we met with the new UGI maintenance director and kind of went over their maintenance responsibilities for the facility, had a very good meeting with them. And then we had a meeting with Dave Stahovich to review project progress. And I have to admit that, as we've talked about in the past, UGI is not a land developer. And they surprised me again. Usually when I go into a meeting with the owner's representative, it's usually they're trying to get out of work. And when we went into the meeting, they were asking for permission to do additional work above and beyond what was in the plan set. So like I said, they're not developers. So they're actually going to be working on clearing out a lot of the undergrowth, invasive and stuff there along Pearl Harbor Boulevard along the frontage. They're going to clean out along Pepperidge Boulevard, and they're actually going to clean out the turnpike side of Pepperidge Boulevard too, to kind of improve the view shed going into the property. So like I said, I was a little bit surprised to meet with them where they're asking to do more work.
Will that include landscaping as well? Or?
There's going to be some landscaping, and they're going to remove the right-of-way fence and a couple other things are going to come down, so they're going to really dress up Pearl Harbor Boulevard as well as Pepperidge. There was a meeting with Lancaster Clean Water Partnership, and there's a what's called a WIP, and it's a stormwater term for a waterway or watershed improvement program. Lancaster County is one of 5 counties that have been designated a Tier 1 county by DEP and EPA. And what that means is they have targeted those counties as having to do the most nutrient reductions in the state of Pennsylvania. Lancaster County is the top of the Tier 1 counties in Pennsylvania. We have a responsibility, according to DEP and EPA, to reduce about 22% of all the nitrogen, phosphorus, and sediment that is going into the Chesapeake Bay with the reduction requirements they have for the next 5 years in the whole state of Pennsylvania. So we have our MS4 requirements right now that we did that pollution reduction plan, we went through that whole drill last year, we have our planned projects. And now we're having a new requirement of reducing an additional 11 million pounds of nitrogen over the next 5 years, above and beyond what all the MS4 municipalities are doing countywide.
Scott, ballpark, what is that percentage?
What, to give you a sense of perspective, 7,000 cows produce 2,000 pounds of nitrogen in a given year in our waterways. There's over 100,000 cows in Lancaster County. So we have to reduce the equivalent manure going on fields and other things of the equivalent of about 50,000 cows.
More digesters.
Digesters and other things. As you guys know, my previous life before I came here, used to do county engineering working with the whole regional digester concept. That's coming back on the table. The concern is if the county doesn't develop a plan that's acceptable to DEP and EPA, then they can come back and basically make us revise our pollution reduction plans to a much more higher level than we're currently being held to for these next 5 years. And since they already have a track record of doing that with the sewer authorities 10 years ago, it is definitely my hope that what came out of that first meeting with the Clean Water Partnership is that they put together a countywide plan that looks at more of an ag solution for this last part and not a municipality solution. So it's a lot easier to find ways to get rid of excess manure and than it is for us to do additional stream bank restorations at this point.
You just dam all the streams and not let it go down.
Big holding tank.
So that, and what makes that even more complex is the county, or DEP gave the county 90 days to put the plan together. I mean, it took us a year for us to put our pollution reduction plan together. The county has 90 days. They have to have the plan in by the end of October, and they were given this responsibility in August. The conservation district, who's got the lead with this, is got a lot of work ahead of them to come up with a countywide plan to reduce this additional materials. They've already taken into account that $11 million has already taken into account what we're all doing as municipalities with our plans.
So what was the catalyst, all the excess runoff because of the amount of rain we've had this year?
Yeah, it's just that, like we talked earlier, their DEP's not meeting their goals and they're not looking at other ways to meet goals.
Okay.
So more to follow. That was the first meeting. That was the shop meeting. So we now know as much as I do at this point. There was a meeting yesterday with Steve Brubaker. He has done a tremendous amount of work on rental ordinances. He's looked at what Lancaster City's doing. He's looked at pretty much every municipality's ordinance in their counties, thoroughly evaluated what Denver Borough does. He has requested to be on their agenda in 2 weeks and to give a presentation on what he's done. I can tell you he's done a lot of work, a lot of homework. It's very informative, and it'll give you guys some ideas to chew on with a lot of different scenarios to consider possibly looking at our own ordinance. MPO updates, since Mr. Mitchell brought up earlier about the Denver interchange. Last 2 days, I've grabbed some pictures because I sat on 222 trying to get off the off-ramp, northbound off-ramp to get onto Colonel Howard Boulevard. The last one actually backed up a good quarter mile. So I got those pictures to pass on to the county and PennDOT to keep reminding them not to delay our project that's now on tip at this point. They've only funded it for preliminary design. Obviously, you need to get final design and construction too for funding. Two new things. We've had a number of speeding complaints over the last few months, and that's something the chief and I have been working on. Some are legitimate and some are, I would consider to be not legitimate. Two studies that have come back based off complaints that I think are legitimate were North Greamstown Road and Park Street. They both had a significant number of vehicles that were driving 15 miles per hour over the posted speed limit. And I will be including in the budget this for 2019 monies for installing temporary speed humps. They run about $1,500 a pop. We've successfully used them in East Enfield Township. You would pull them up when snow plowing season occurs, and you put them back down during the warm months. And we will just try that out first to see if that will help out. I can tell you they are pretty obnoxious, so it will definitely slow traffic down on North Greamstown Road.
Chief might have some extra spike strips.
Yeah, right.
So
Slow them down.
we do have a couple. There's a couple businesses along North Greamstown Road that actually have difficulty getting out of their driveways at certain times of the day because of reduced sight distance and excessive speeding. So we're going to be kind of strategic as to where we put them. I'm looking at roughly about 3 on North Greamstown Road, maybe 2 on South Greamstown Road in front of the school, and maybe a couple along Park Street. We've also received a number of complaints, and I shared one with you, one being Morganshire, which I would state I do not feel at all has a speeding problem. It's a perception issue. It's not an issue that's backed by traffic counts at this point. I would anticipate that since they do not like the answer they got from both myself and from Chief Kepley, that at some point they will reach out to the board to complain about the two of us as being non-responsive. But we made it very clear that we do not consider it at this point to be a problem, and they disagree at this point. But to give perspective, in Morganshire, or let's say North Reamstown Road, I'll just throw some ballpark numbers. Of one traffic count, we had over 400 vehicles traveling 15 miles over the speed limit over a 7-day count. In Morganshire, we had 3 vehicles over a 7-day count traveling 15 over. And basically why 15 over is that's the level we can enforce. So basically, if cars that are on 40 and over, the police can ticket with our current capabilities. So to put a police officer out there for 7 days to possibly ticket 3 people is not the best use of our police resources. However, Park Street and North Reamstown Road have been getting targeted enforcement and have had a number of tickets issued. So that's going to be a little bit of an adjustment but I think going forward there's probably going to be a small line item each year in the budget for some traffic calming measures where there's actually a documented need at this point. We've also received numerous stormwater complaints given all the record rainfall we've had over the last 2 months, and we've been attempting to address some of those needs. There is one issue I'll make you aware that we are going to be using our highway staff to work on our road crew, and that is along Smokestown Road. Even though it's a PennDOT road, PennDOT has refused to clean out the gutter in one area that is causing foot-deep water crossing over Smokestown Road at given times of the year right by Hill Road. And we are looking to engage in a project to reestablish the gutter line and talk to 2 property owners about putting 18-inch pipe underneath their driveways and basically getting that gutter line going. I am also still trying to push PennDOT for them to upgrade culverts. That is also undersized that goes underneath Smokestown Road. But at least we can do our part to kind of help the residents with some of their immediate flooding needs. Like I say, a number of those residents had a good foot plus of water in their garages a couple times this summer already. So by at least reestablishing the gutter will do some of that. MS4, the annual report is due in September. I will be extending some amount of time over the month of September, along with our engineering land studies to get that report in. And key upcoming meetings because of that and the budget and some of the other things that we're working on right now. I've literally not scheduled meetings for the next 2 weeks. So we can work on those things. And that without including on the report.
Any questions of the manager? Yeah, Scott, it's been several months now since we've seen the police budget forecasting. Where's the forecasting for the rest of the budget?
There is a 4-year projection that was just given to the Board of Supervisors. We have a timeline of next week, myself and Chief Kepley, of putting the 2019 budget worksheet together. And then what we've internally given ourselves both a deadline is a week after that, utilizing those more refined numbers back into the 4-year projections. So we're about 2 weeks away from having something a little bit more accurate than 4-year projections. But we're really looking at kind of refining what's in the 2019 budget numbers with real numbers.
So you'll have that those numbers by the next meeting 2 weeks from now?
Maybe not by the next meeting 2 weeks from now, but by the workshop meeting that we hold to start off the budget process, which would be sometime in October beginning.
So we're a month away yet.
Yeah, it's going to be, there's a lot of give or take to get those 19 numbers put together, but we are a month ahead of schedule where we were last year for budget.
Correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know, but we've seen 3 or 4 year budget forecasting in the past, at least not presented to the public.
No, it wasn't presented in last year's workshop either, so this will be the first time where you're going to see when we held the workshop, not only talking about the 2019 budget, but also talking about the forecast and looking at different options for the forecast.
So it'll all be out at that point.
That would be my goal.
There are a couple that drag behind, as we've talked about before, and one of them is liquid fuel. We don't get an idea what that's going to be from the state until end of September. So, you know, there's gonna be some flow numbers, as I call them. They're just best guesstimates. You just don't know. There's gonna be some hiccups, but that's just part of the process. It's a work in progress, and it is, you know, if we make it now and it changes, that skews everything for the next 3 or 4 years. So instead of going back and reinventing all those numbers, we hold off until we can get some real numbers. And then every 2 weeks is payday, so, you know, I know you said in 2 weeks, but we got a bookkeeper that's busy with other things. She's got to prepare all these spreadsheets and work that around getting her, everybody likes to get paid on a regular basis, so we got to work that in, and that's police overtime, et cetera, et cetera. So it gets a little tight, budget time gets real tight. It's not we're trying to stall anything, but rather than having Liz go through all those numbers 2, 3, 4 times, it's easier just to wait an extra week or so and get the right number and then start from there.
It's probably more the ever-increasing trends that concern me the most in probably both budgets.
And they concern all of us. That's why we're having these, we want to make it right, as close to right as we can.
Any other public comments of non-agenda items? Okay, I have an announcement to make, and I'll read it so I won't mess it up. Joan Fisher, the elected tax collector of the township, will be stepping down for health-related reasons after 35 years of faithful service to the community. She was first elected in 1984. Mrs. Fisher has successfully collected the township and county property tax, fire hydrant, street light, and local service tax in effectively a cost-effective manner. Mrs. Fisher will continue to collect all the taxes in 2018, real estate, hydrant, street light, local service tax for the remaining 2018 tax season, including collection of the fourth quarter local service tax through January 2019. The annual deadline for payment of with that particular tax goes into January, so that's why she'll stick around then. In the months ahead, the township will work with Mrs. Fisher to develop and implement a plan for 2019 season to ensure the seamless transition and the appointment of a new tax collector. And with regret, I read this announcement. She did a wonderful job over the year, and when we met with her, she said she really enjoyed the job, especially meeting the people and helping with their problems. With having a local tax collector, when somebody has a problem, you have somebody to answer the questions. You call Lancaster, well, put it on hold, so. Anything else for the township? Looking for a motion.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second. All in favor?